If you would like to help me, then the best thing that you can do is share this video with some news personality or outlet, some kind of alternative news that you consume here on the platform. And hopefully together we can all shine some light on this miscarriage of justice. Thank you. 2 months ago, almost to the day, I brought to your guys' attention that I had been attacked, that I was being singled out along with several other creators by a rabid, illogical anti-gun organization. And they were insinuating that I and these creators had committed multiple federal crimes. They're bent on getting people like me rolled up by the government. And this just a month after Brian Malinowski was killed in a no-knock raid at 6 o'clock in the morning, where the governing organization in question in this kind of instance ran up to the door and covered the doorbell camera with black tape, didn't wear body cameras or any of that sort of stuff. It triggered a congressional hearing where the ATF director had to show up and explain why the heck this all happened.
That criminals are not going to be reading this, okay? But what is it going to do to law-abiding citizen like Brian Malinowski that potentially was just doing, selling these guns, and I don't know the whole circumstances, but he's dead because he was not probably realizing what you were doing and changes of this rule. So my question is for you is going to be, do you understand how dangerous your definitions have become?
As I mentioned in that original announcement, the individual that penned that particular hit piece didn't possess the synaptic innervation that would allow them to put all the facts together that I and several of the other people that they named are actually licensed to do that sort of stuff. So it is not outright illegal to do any of the things that they insinuated that we were doing. It is just illegal to do them without a license. Now, I don't think that it should be that way, but I also don't think that it is an accident whatsoever that I have since been audited by the ATF. They came, they inspected, and by the way, found absolutely nothing wrong. I would like to point that out. In fact, I might point out, the auditor told me that I was more squared away than I needed to be, that I was exceeding the standard, if you will. But back to the whole thing about I and my colleagues being attacked by this organization and them trying to entice the government to do bad things to us. At the end of that original video, I asked YouTube how an organization that has a presence on their platform could do something like this and it not be a violation of their policy against harassment and trying to damage the community. I asked them that. I've, of course, heard no response from them on that, but YouTube did react. How did they react? With punitive actions and guidelines against guys like me. That makes sense. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Quick service announcement for all of y'all. We have now 2 discount codes prepped up for you guys over at Mission First Tactical. One is for the all day everything stuff, everything from their backpacks to their drinkware to the holsters to even the new translucent magazines that they just came out with. Really like the purple ones, by the way. And then a second code that is for everything that is getting ready to go away. It's going to be like 50 or 60% off in many cases. So you can find all that information over at the affiliates page, and special thanks to Mission First Tactical for making today's video possible. Firearms content online is one of the most inundated with regulation that you can find. There are so many content guidelines that have been integrated over time that many of them end up contradicting each other. And what you end up with is this vague sort of like, is that what they meant? Is that not? And in compounding that problem is that you can clearly see that these guidelines are not written by people who really have an understanding of firearms because they just don't know the word for something, so they'll just make it up and stick it in there. And I've had conversations with people at YouTube and been like, this is literally doesn't exist, right? I don't even know what this term is supposed to identify, and then they try to explain it through, and it doesn't make sense still. What you end up with in this situation is that there is a very small subset of the content guidelines on YouTube that actually make sense or have a positive impact. Things like don't do irresponsible things on live streams with guns, right? Just about everything else ends up in this intentionally vague bin that has all the traces of activism attached to it, that is attempting to ascribe definitions to things without a position of authority on the subject matter, or any attachment to reality or current law. That was a long way around to say that there are a lot of guidelines. Most of them don't make sense. The person who composed them doesn't really know a whole lot about what they're talking about, except for that there are things that they don't like, and they're trying to control them, even though they aren't illegal. So instead of going through the massive wall of text in front of me that is the content guidelines on YouTube, I'm just going to go through the things that YouTube is seeking to change that hopefully you can help stop. Right off the top, starting June 18, 2024, certain content showing how to remove safety devices will be prohibited. Content showing the use of homemade firearms, automatic firearms, and certain firearms accessories will be age restricted. The banning of content that shows how to remove a safety device. To the uninitiated, you might be like, wow, that sounds like, why on earth would you remove a safety? Well, to someone who doesn't have any clue, yeah, that does sound like something that would be irresponsible. But in fact, there are many firearms out there that have additional external safeties for the purposes of personal preference to the end user. I have several firearms that are designed to operate without the external thumb safety that make it, the manufacturer makes it removable on purpose so that it can either be completely deleted or moved to the other side of the firearm for a left-handed person, even though that it's wrong to shoot guns left-handed. That's a topic for another day. Coming from someone who is a firearms professional that works with them every single day and has attended thousands of hours of training, there are several real-world applications why you would want to eliminate a redundant external safety on some firearms. There are also fewer, but some reasons why you might integrate a redundant external safety on some firearms. The concept that we are going to ban a video that shows someone how to safely remove this device so that it doesn't make a firearm dangerous or inflict injury on someone. Would you want that video, if you were doing something potentially dangerous, would you want that video to be made by a professional that does this every single day and has a breadth of knowledge on the subject matter that might keep you from doing something stupid? Or do you want them to go to some unauthoritative source on some third-party website that could potentially lead them astray? I think that it would be smarter to have outlets out there that have been vetted by the people to know what it is that they are doing to help people do this in a way, because it is not a small percentage of firearms that can do this sort of thing. Now, removal of singular safeties, almost all guns out there that have a safety that is integral to its operation, if you remove that thing, it just simply will not work. Having stated this factual information, it is my opinion that whoever came up with this idea is ignorant of that information and does not possess the subject matter expertise to make calls pertaining to this sort of thing, and it is not positively impacting responsible firearms ownership. In fact, I would say that they are negatively impacting this in such a way as to result in more negligent behavior with firearms, including serious bodily harm, injury, or death. Thanks, YouTube. Super responsible of you. Let's move to the age-restricted content because most of this is new, and so I'm just going to read the whole thing. Content showing the use of a homemade firearm, an automatic firearm, or accessories that enable a firearm to simulate automatic fire, accessories that convert a firearm to automatic fire, such as bump stocks, Gatling triggers, drop-in auto sears, or conversion kits, high-capacity magazines, homemade silencers, suppressors. And examples of this would be 3D printed firearm, fully automatic rifle, firing a firearm with a high capacity magazine. We're going to jump around a little bit in this section, but I think the most logical place to start is with the actual fully automatic guns, the actual legit machine guns. In most locales in the United States, it is 100% legal for a citizen of the United States to keep and bear a fully automatic machine gun. It is constitutionally protected to do so, and in fact, in the initial arguments for the 1934 National Firearms Act that regulated such arms for the first time, it was stated that these items are not being prohibited, they're simply being taxed. Again, they are constitutionally protected, acquirable, legal property, and for YouTube to restrict this type of content covering these types of arms is extrajudicial and has no basis in reality whatsoever. Or to put it that whole thing more succinctly, we don't like this thing. We don't know why we don't like this thing. We don't have a legitimate reason why we don't like this thing. We just simply don't like it, and we're going to restrict content on it, which is entirely illegitimate. And then just about everything else in this segment bolts on top of the National Firearms Act. So the accessories that enable a firearm to simulate automatic fire, there's no such thing as simulating automatic fire. The government has tried to regulate this. They have failed. It either is automatic fire or it is not automatic fire. The line is very clear, and the government is currently embroiled in litigation over this type of thing. The accessories that convert a firearm to automatic fire, such as bump stocks, Gatling trigger, drop-in auto sears, and conversion kits. The last two, drop-in auto sears, are absolutely currently regulated, and that would fall under the whole thing of machine gun. That is actually a machine gun, and it is registered as a machine gun, right? Same thing with the conversion kit. It's actually redundant there. A conversion kit would be a drop-in auto sear, or actually a conversion kit would be a drop-in auto sear would be a type of conversion kit, the other way around. The bump stocks do not convert a firearm to fully automatic fire. That is currently being litigated at the Supreme Court, and they are going to lose, they being the government. Gatling triggers are expressly stated by the ATF to be protected. In fact, they are expressly excluded from the National Firearms Act as long as there is no provision to attach any kind of electric motor or anything like that. If it is a hand-cranked firearm, the ATF has said, we can't touch this. It is outside of our purview. And that has been long-standing. Homemade stuff. On its surface, just like the whole safety removal thing, you can sort of come up with a semi-logical argument for, hey, we don't want to show this sort of stuff because there are bad people out there that could use this information. But the fact of the matter is that it has been the tradition of the United States, since before the United States was the United States, that you could make your own weapons at home. The Supreme Court has said that things that are covered by the Second Amendment include practices that can be shown in the text, history, and tradition in the United States. And since before the United States was the United States, citizens could make their own weapons at home. It is going to be that way going forward. It isn't even a question on whether that is legal to do. And for YouTube to remove or restrict this kind of content goes back to the whole argument about the removal of the safety video type stuff. I think that it's irresponsible of YouTube to do this. Now, as far as the homemade silencers thing, look, there is a dedicated form at the ATF. It's called the Form 1 that is expressly for manufacturing silencers. There is a dedicated form for this thing. So for YouTube to say, hey, we don't want this content on here, I'm sorry, but there is an expressed example of something to the point where they created dedicated paperwork for it. Removing this kind of content from the platform or age restricting this kind of content from the platform does not make sense because it will make it harder to find for people that want to do this sort of thing safely and legally. You're talking about a pressure vessel, YouTube. We all know that the reason that you are implementing these things is because some illogical idiots somewhere that have a public-facing profile have pressed upon you to institute these kind of regulations on your platform. I would like to point out to you that these are the same people that are suing you right now. We, the content people who are trying to follow your rules, are not the people who are currently suing you. The people that are pressing on you on one side are currently enemies of yours. You are letting your enemies dictate what you can show on your platform. Those current challenges deal with Section 702. And it is my opinion that these lawsuits negatively impact the efficacy of the platform. I don't think that it's a good idea that your 702 protections are pierced. However, when you perpetrate this kind of behavior, I start to see the argument of the people who are currently suing you, because when you curate content to this level, when you micromanage at this kind of level, what you are doing is you are demonstrating that you are not a public forum. You are demonstrating that you are a content provider, and you can absolutely be held liable for this. So currently, I think that it's a bad thing that you are being sued, because I think it'll negatively impact the community. However, if you continue to perpetrate these kinds of evils on your creators, then you are demonstrating that you probably shouldn't have those protections. So it is my advice to you that you abandon this entire thing and probably roll back, maybe I'd go back 10 years on your content policies, probably, because all of this, except for the whole stuff about, waving stuff around and being irresponsible on live streams and stuff, just about everything else here is arbitrary and capricious. That's all I've got for today. And hopefully I'll see you on another video here at the VSO Gun Channel, provided that I don't get taken down over this sort of stuff, because this is definitely going to damage my business.